Fan waiting room, get in here. Hopefully, Oops All Spells is dead forever about the time this video releases. Entomb can go too. Hello, folks. Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU, here for another Legacy video, and today I'm going to be playing with Deadguy Ale. Seemed like a good way to send off the format. As a quick heads up, it is my intention to record sort of a ban reaction and analysis video immediately after the BNR updates. YouTube members, you will have access to that immediately. For everyone else, that will be my Tuesday video for July 1st. So this is Rick's deck list, which I thought was pretty good. I made very, very minimal changes to this. The idea was to build around Bat Bob, as Rick called it, Darkstar Augur. This was something that I played in Modern and went, this is actually pretty good. And within the context of Legacy, playing actual factual Dark Confidant isn't all of that great anymore, because Orcish Bowmasters puts a lot of pressure on X1s in the format. So if you are playing X1 creatures, you want them to either come down early or give some benefit even if they are killed. A body that comes with them, a valuable trigger, something like that. The only change that I have made is that Rick's initial list played 4 Static Prison, and I'm going to try to split those with Fatal Push. I have found playing these sorts of decks that when I don't have Guide of Souls, the naked Static Prisons are sometimes not all that great. They are, objectively speaking, a removal spell for about 2 turns, even if you don't have the Guide of Souls support, but that's not always enough time. And so I think some number of either Fatal Pushes or Path to Exiles or something like that, rounding out the removal suite, is better than playing the 4x Static Prison. And we will have a few more removal spells in the sideboard. Sheltered by Ghosts is a bit of a high variance card, but when it is good, boy, is it good. I like it better in the green decks where your creatures are likely to be larger innately so that the lifelink does more work. But even if it's just a couple of Guide of Souls counters, this can give you a let's rephrase this. This can give you a meaningful amount of life. Even with a single connection, it might be the difference between surviving 2 versus 3 Murktide Region hits or something like that. As far as nuance in the mana base goes, I think you could mess around with Castle Locthwain, Caracas, and the 2x Wastelands as flex slots. I could see playing a second Shadowy Backstreet. I don't think you want to go above 2 Wasteland. You are a deck that wants to play a 3-drop that is sometimes a 4-drop. But I think the last time I played a deck that looks like this, I said that Urza's Saga was a problematic card. So keeping a couple of Wastelands in the mana base seems fine. Of the flex slot lands, Castle Locthwain is the one that I like the least. We already have Darkstar Augur as sort of our endgame extra card draw. I don't see us activating this very often. And this is not a white land for turn 1 of the game, which feels like a really big deal, especially if we want to Guide of Souls into Ocelot Pride plus another card alongside of that. Actually, I think I've just full on talked myself out of that card. Yeah. We have enough fetchables for that to be fine? Yeah, probably. As far as the rest of the sideboard goes, it's pretty typical stuff. I am growing less and less fond of Deafening Silence versus the combo decks that are floating around in Legacy. Don't feel like this card is always pulling its weight. It's possible that I might be better targeting one thing more specifically rather than taking something that is generically okay versus a combo deck. For example, I think you could run something like a Grafdigger's Cage in one of these spots, and that would be a way to potentially improve the deck. But the sideboard is solid enough that I don't think I am going to muck with it. And with that, let's go ahead and hop into some games here. Folks, if you need any Magic cards, consider getting them from my sponsor, TOAMagic.com. Promo code ThrabenU will save you 5% on your order, and I can tell you, they got a bunch of my cards in Vegas. Selling to them was an absolute treat. They gave me very good prices on some new Final Fantasy cards, including a Surge Foil that I ripped. So check them out. You won't regret it. Let's battle. Our first opening hand here is Landlight. I don't think I am going to get to keep many one-landers in this deck. This second one is super reasonable. I think our third land drop goes back here. The Ocelot Pride is not, like, super amazing by itself without Guide of Souls backing it up. And that's a complaint that a few members of my Discord have had in the past. But assuming that I take an opposing creature out of the way and this can spiral a little bit, it can still be fine. Alright, so we're full on to Metalcraft already. It looks like we're playing against a blue painter deck. And I'm going to be put in a weird spot with this Swords to Plowshares, because if I use it on this Emery, a painter could come down, and that could mean very, very bad things for me. But at the same time, like, letting my opponent grind out with Thought Monitors and Aether Spell Bombs is probably not great either. So I think I am going to have a mana inefficient turn here. I don't have the third land drop guaranteed. Ooh, yeah. That's super bad. So now Ocelot Pride is stalled out, and my opponent is going to get to grind me to death. Either literally or figuratively. Clever. So Bauble Redraw is happening. I have Bowmasters to help check that, but I am just in a very bad position here. These constructs are huge. My opponent has card advantage. I don't like it. Force of Will on the Swords was rough, but we had other problems in the first place. I do not need another Voice of Victory here. I've got a Scrubland. I think the way that I win this game is by getting more cards, and I think I'm just sad about what happens in the next turn cycle. Because about the best this goes for me is that my opponent just has 2 large constructs, and the worst it goes for me is that my opponent has Painter plus land and just outright kills me. Alright, cycling of the Bauble. Saga to 3, so this is going to be 2 7/7-ish creatures. Shadow Spear would be rough. Yeah, there it is. The opponent can replay the Bauble. I'm going to eat 7 from this. I'm going to eat 6 from this. I guess I'm thankful for that. I don't think I'm chump blocking here. Alright, I think we've got to do this. King Emery. Opponent draws a card. King Emery. And now Darkstar Augur happens. That did not get me the removal spell that I wanted, which is unfortunate. Hopefully I don't die in this next turn cycle. Let's go, yeah. Do this thing. I have the City's Blessing. I think it is worth it. You do fly, right? Yeah, to do this. We'll see if opponent wants to give me the Planeswalker. They do. Now I am just going to make another cat body past the turn. And then this potentially diverts the Shadow Spear creature directly to Ajani and saves me a bunch of life, which would be very positive for me, I think. So this construct is going at my face. This construct is going at Ajani. I think I'm just going to let the Planeswalker eat it. Chump with a cat? No, chump with an orc. And then hopefully the Darkstar Augur just gets me some removal spells. I don't think I want to, like, quadruple block or whatever it was to get rid of that. Voice of Victory, Scrubland. Not great. Now we might be in throw a bunch of bodies in the way territory. I don't want to be. I don't want to block with this, but the trample on Shadow Spear and the variability of the number of artifacts that my opponent might have in play for this attack step, I think require me to leave it back just in case. Okay. Now there is 10 coming at my face. What does this look like? Kill this. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, not great. If I throw away a couple of Voice of Victories, just save life, so Darkstar Augur doesn't kill me. I don't really know how I kill all of this stuff in game 1. In the post-sideboard games, this is what Wrath of the Skies is for. So I am dead to any mana source from my opponent. I don't think I am going to show them this card, even if this keeps me alive for another turn cycle. I think I'm just kind of in the abyss or worse here. I am okay conceding. And now we get Clarion Conqueror and Wrath of the Skies as major haymakers for the matchup. I probably stop trying to attack my opponent's hand here and then trim a threat of some kind. I think since I'm boarding in a bunch of Clarion Conquerors, I'm going to trim one of these. On the play, it's not crazy to play something like Deafening Silence. I don't know that I am in love with it. Sheltered by Ghosts is also okay, but I don't think I need to overboard here. Even if something like Voice of Victory is not overly impressive, my opponent still is a counterspell deck at the end of the day. 6-card hand's a little weird. Mana is not perfect here. I'm going to keep Fatal Push is awkward. Darkstar Augur is also awkward. I think what I'm going to do is give up some tempo and not play Ocelot Pride on 1 to Shadowy Backstreet to have Fatal Push available earlier in the game. Okay. With that right there, I wish I had land drop 3 over Darkstar Augur. Alright, there's a Tamiyo. This is exactly the card I was thinking about in trying to keep Fatal Push in this opener. So there is this. But I think I am going to play Magic for a little while before deploying Wrath of the Skies. I think. Ooh, are we considering Force of Will? That sat on the stack for a while. That might want to mean that I want to be conservative with Wrath of the Skies. We shall see. Urza's Saga and Disruptor Flute on Goyf. Reasonable. Found it sussed out that I am playing that. Well, I mean, yeah. I might eat a Force of Will here, but I think this Wrath of the Skies right now is just absolutely too good to not attempt if they've got it. Ooh, yeah. So that gets both of my opponent's lands. That is double Sinkhole, and I get to start spiraling Ocelot Pride. Opponent does have more lands. A Pithing Needle now. Presumably for... Ooh, it's for Wasteland. Okay, that makes sense. I'm going to throw down some more cats. That's a Force of Will now. That's interesting. Did my opponent not have a blue card to pair with it before, or what? Or were they just, like, willing to let it resolve because they just have a hand just absolutely full of land? There's a Thoughtcast. I would like my 3rd land drop here. We'll take that. I don't think it's insane or anything. Next turn with Ocelot Pride, if the way is still clear. This is quite powerful. My opponent is on 11 with an Ancient Tomb in play and 5, soon to be 7 creatures in play. This is a tough spot for them. Ooh, another Ocelot Pride. Otawara-ing the Voice of Victory. Sure. This is still 4 damage. Like, that is a very relevant amount. And I can drop another Ocelot Pride to get 2 of these sets of triggers. You're not quite up to the City's Blessing yet, but this is more than 5 power spread across a lot of bodies there. I expected that Wrath of the Skies to be more devastating than it was, honestly. So, on the draw, do I want a copy or 2 of Sheltered by Ghosts? It's a little slow in this matchup. I'm going to say no. This hand is totally fine. I would prefer not to play my Static Prison on turn 1. Pithing Needle on Wasteland. Opponent very much thinks this game is about Urza's Saga. And then there is an Emery. Revealing the One Ring. I think this is a spot where I just kind of eat it here and Static Prison the Emery out of the way, and then Guide of Souls plus Ocelot Pride next turn gives me a persistent source of energy, assuming that things work out the way I want them to. Thoughtcast. 1 mana Thoughtcast at that. Do I want to Voice of Victory this turn? It is the best versus counterspells, and I really would like these to resolve. I am into it. Get another Scrub and throw down the Voice. The, what is it? The Improvise Counterspell Metallic Rebuke seems telegraphed here to me. Yeah. And then next turn I can still pay for Static Prison and have the mana to Guide of Souls plus Ocelot Pride. Alright, there is an Urza Saga, which I obviously don't love. The last energy I currently have, another counterspell would be very bad. So hopefully they don't have it. Tempt Cat. Come on, baby. Nice. Well, let's just always yield to those. Shadowy Backstreet. I don't really want that. And now we get our cat token and one more energy. A little scared of just losing to Painter here. But hopefully Clarion Conqueror is just very good. Oh, shit. Yes. Yeah, that's everything but my opponent's Pithing Needle. I'll do this post-combat, I think. Oh, wait, no, I'm an idiot. My opponent has a Urza Saga token. Yep, okay. That was a very bad miss on my part. Let's Wrath. Yeah, because that means that I don't get an energy and a life, and hence a token this turn. And I also miss out on 2 points of damage. Cameo's fine. I will pay for my thing. Clarion Conqueror is very good here, but so is Double Spell. I think I just want this to always resolve. So I think I am going to jam the Voice this turn, jam the Ajani, go up to 3 energy, send in... I don't actually want... No, I can pay that because I'm going to get another at the end of turn. I will throw that on the Ocelot Pride, get in for 3. My opponent can free block the Guide of Souls. And then I will get the City's Blessing and get a few more tokens. I think this is the point where my opponent can't realistically come back anymore, because I'm going to play Clarion Conqueror and shut off the Painter combo out, while probably dealing pretty close to lethal. There's the clue being cracked. Yeah, there is the GG in chat. Opponent says, I didn't want to play out the Saga, but I didn't really have anything else to do. Yeah, makes sense. Wrath of the Skies absolutely did some serious work in both of those post-sideboard games. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com. If you want to see upcoming sets, if you want to understand commander brackets, or if you just want an awesome place to store all, and I mean all, of your deck lists, Moxfield is the place. You can organize all of your decks by folders, and you can even change the views. You like visual, they've got that. You like text, they've got that. Check out my Moxfield Pro Field if you want to see all, and I mean all, of the decks that I've been cooking up. Okay, I am going to keep this hand, but I'm mostly keeping it because I suspect I know what my opponent is playing. In the hand, I don't really love... Sorry, in the dark, I don't really love this hand, but I think my opponent is very likely to be playing Show and Tell, and having access to both Caracas and Static Prison in this specific matchup is very, very good. Otherwise, I am just like not getting out of the gates very quickly here. Force of Will, pitching a Ponder. Ooh, it is Underground Sea. Might have been wrong. Are we blue-black show and... Alright, we are blue-black show and tell. I'm going to go for the Static Prison immediately in case it's Omniscience. It is an Emrakul, which I will have Caracas to cover as well. It is not the end of the world if I end up giving up this Static Prison. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that land. So I'll go ahead and pay for it this time. And I think I am interested in the extra cards here. Wonder if my opponent is on some like hybrid show and tell reanimator deck. When you start seeing something weird from an established deck, you have to like think, why is my opponent doing the thing that they are doing? And the answers are something like, okay, they want access to discard, they want access to Orcish Bowmasters, they want access to a reanimation main deck or sideboard plan. They want access to some weird tutor like Limdual's Vault. These are the sorts of things that you should be thinking about, and we'll probably get confirmation shortly about what my opponent can actually do. This is at the beginning of my first main phase, which matters because I can see the Darkstar Augur trigger. What are we doing? Is it another My opponent was paying red, not blue. Oh? That's a spicy meatball. So my opponent paid Ancient 2 mana into that. They needed black for Wishclaw Talisman. Okay. Alright, so there is Ocelot Pride. I'm going to go ahead and pay this again. What the fuck do I wasteland? Is it raw mana versus like a specific color? I don't know. I'm going to go raw mana count here, I think. Do a Johnny, make a cat, make a more other cat, send in for 2. Opponent's at 12, facing down a 2-turn clock. I give my opponent back their Emrakul, but then I Karakas it back to hand. Opponent has 3 mana plus Wishclaw. And this is sorcery speed only, right? Yes. Another Swords, a Voice of Victory. My opponent gets their Emrakul back, which I will bounce. Go ahead and cast Voice of Victory before I do so that things don't get weird. Bounce that. Go to Punchies. Punchies. My opponent's at 6. They can show and tell Emrakul again. That doesn't matter. Omniscience could be problematic. 3, 4, 5, 6. So I could be left with 3 permanents. I can very easily produce lethal with 3 permanents. I guess I was right when I said some weird tutor like Limduel's Vault, but this was not really the one that I was expecting. City of Traders is very scary, because that's a mana burst. What does my opponent need to win? They're probably now bottlenecked on mana. They've made their land drop. They don't have black open for any sort of dark ritual. So I don't physically know what they can be looking for, unless there's artifact mana in there. In which case, like, brainstorm into, like, petal. Yeah. Happy to win game 1 when we don't really understand what our opponent is doing. This is actively good. This is going to shut off the artifact mana. This is fine versus show and tell. And Deafening Silence is, like, not amazing, but might make the deck. We're going to take out, I think, most of this removal. And then if I'm playing Clarion Conqueror, I probably just trim a couple of 3-drops, and that gives us something that looks like this. I am now less certain about whether or not there's Reanimator stuff in there. I think I am not going to Called Shot go for Leylines. This is fine. I would like to get a creature in play relatively quickly so that I can put Sheltered by Ghosts in off of Show and Tell. In theory, I have 2 different 2-drop creatures that I could be putting in play. So hopefully that's fine. Island and pass. Ooh. Yeah. A lot of times, if I Thoughtseize, my opponent just brainstorms in response and hides their best cards. But if I don't cast this Thoughtseize this turn, I probably never cast it because of how Deafening Silence ends up constraining the game. But I think I'm going to do it now. If I force action on the brainstorm, then my opponent might not get an optimal shuffle out of it, which could be worth something. Alright, there's exactly what I was talking about. Fluster, Brainstorm, Force of Will. I'm honestly just going to take the Brainstorm. I will let them counter one of my cards with Force of Will. There's Basic Mountain. Let them counter Voice. Stick Bowmasters. That seems fine. That's pitching the Fluster that would not be particularly good. There's a 3rd land drop. So the 2 hidden cards were exactly Show and Tell plus something to do with it, which is unfortunate. I think I'm going to go Deafening Silence here. It is Atraxa. That's a lot of cards that they get to keep. Game's going to go on for a little while. Alright, so they've got this, they've got this. Do they have Show and Tell? No, they took Ponder. They don't have that. Don't have that. Which land? Ancient Tomb. All basics. Don't have 4 mana. So I guess my plan is play Bowmaster at end of turn, Sheltered by Ghosts, Atraxa, and somehow deal with the Fury. Yikes. I'm going to take 7 here. I don't like how this looks. If I play Sheltered by Ghosts, the Ward 2 is not a problem because of the sneak attack. I think I am okay tapping out here. This did not work out well. I don't know how I feel about Deafening Silence, having seen more of my opponent's deck. It seems like the Pentad Prism stuff is to bridge the gap towards multiple different 4-drop enablers. They've got the tree, they've got sneak attacks. It might just be that I want a few more answers to the creatures that get into play. This is fine. Thoughtseize into Voice of Victory, maybe into Sheltered by Ghosts. Let's get a scrub. An opponent is on a 6-card hand, multiple stock-ups, and a Wishclaw Talisman. The Wish Claw is something that I, in theory, answer. And all of these cards are very good, though. I am going to take the Sneak Attack, I think, and make my opponent assemble both A and B instead of leaving one of the pieces in their hand. But I think you can make a lot of different arguments for how to play that specific hand. Bowmaster, not very good against this specific hand, unfortunately. I want Voice of Victory here in play before my opponent starts drawing a bunch of Force of Wills off, stock up. There's the mountain that we know about. Opponent does not play out another card, so I don't need to Sheltered by Ghosts here. So I will just play out another Voice of Victory and get in there for 3 damage. And then we have to sacrifice the tokens at the end of turn. There's our Guide of Souls. Alright, now we are getting action from our opponent. Might kind of just be forced to play out the Wishclaw Talisman here. Nope, that's not black mana. That's an Otawara played out, and a stock up. Our petals in there. So I think I play out a Ajani here, because I can get an Orcish Bowmaster ing next turn. I get in for 6 this turn, putting my opponent at 10. Then I have 3, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage, plus Orcish Bowmaster ping for lethal. But there are cards like Fury that will interact with me and make that not true. Mana spent not killing me is great. Big fan. That was a shuffle. Big fan of that as well. Alright, my opponent went into the tank for about 5 minutes, so let's see what they came up with. Wishclaw Talisman. Bracket. This is leaving Ancient Tomb mana available. Is this Fury to keep you alive? This is Fury. Sure. So I've got 6 damage showing here, and whatever I play on my turn is uncounterable. I don't know that I want to give the Wishclaw back to my opponent. Like, I have some things like Caracas that I could search for, or Static Prison that I could search for. I kind of think I am just interested in dealing the maximum amount of damage to my opponent. I'm always doing this and sending in for 6. If I deal 1 point of damage to my opponent, they cannot fetch anymore, which is relevant for red, or Sneak Attack plus Activate. I think that is what I am going to do. King face, and then I'll sacrifice these tokens. That is opponent going to 1. The opponent needs Natural Land or Lotus Petal at this point to cast a Show and Tell, and they need more than that for Sneak Attack. Yeah, that's not valid. And opponent shows themselves at the door. We take down that one. I believe we're now 2-0, but like, despite the fact that, I'm still at 16 life and I have a massive board here, I was probably very close to dead. I don't know what bottlenecked my opponent last turn, but they had access to a tutor and could not actually get the win there. GG's. All right. Opening hand is fine. Guide of Souls into Voice of... A straight-up Darksteel Citadel. That's unusual. That's fine. Like, it costs me a 1-drop, but that's not actually all that bad. I have a very good hand still. Why Darksteel Citadel? That's our first... Well, that's our first puzzle of this game. Like, are you a monocolored deck that just wants more artifact lands for Mox Opal purposes? We're going hard on this stuff. Okay. So this might be, and I'm going to forget the name of it, but there's an Aether Drift affinity card at like 5-ish mana that might be in this deck. Do I want the extra land to guarantee Offspring? How many 1-drops do I have? Quite a few. So, like, these are kind of the thing that win the game. Do this one on 3 and this one on 4 kicked. That's so long from now. I'll find another land. Found a cat. Cat's not bad. I think I am first interested in shutting off counterspells, though. Or taking the first counterspell from my opponent. Commandeer. Opponent is lost in the sauce. Emery comes down, revealing a Thought Monitor. Yeah. So my opponent's deck legitimately wants more than just the 4 seats. I am interested in playing this one first. This is going to get absolutely huge with like Emery and friends fueling the graveyard. My opponent's not going to be great at removing things that resolve. Excuse me. So like the removal that they could have would probably be things like Otawara and Dismember. So like once this is in play, it's probably stuck. The downside here is that my opponent can chump block with a Thought Monitor and then rebuy it with Emery. This is not great for me. Mox Opal, more mana needed. Ooh. So in case you're not familiar with this one, all the artifacts now tap for blue. And there is a little bit of inevitability in this activation. And there are just more Saga tokens coming. Blocking this is not good. There's 2 more of these coming. Can I power through this Chalice without like Guide of Souls, Ocelot, Pride, Static Prison? I just don't get to answer the Chalice ever. I think I'm dead. I am willing to play on for another turn or 2, I think. Because I think this makes my opponent's attacks pretty awkward. Minus the flyers. Those still get in for free, and then hopefully I log the air with this. I just don't think I beat the Shadow Spear that's coming. Presumably coming, anyway. I'm at 10. And Emery is just going to get a bobble out of there. You've got it. Man, Clarion Conqueror is going to fucking slap. Like, Fatal Push. Not what I'm looking for. I'm going to cast this with Offspring. So the copy is a 1/1. And I don't think my attacks make sense. So these are 10/10s, soon to probably be 13/13-ishes. My opponent gets an artifact from this, an artifact from the search, an artifact from Emery, and maybe more from hand. Fuck, there's the Shadow Sphere. That's so bad. Yeah, so that lets that relatively safely attack and makes the Ajani much worse. Let's assume that I do that, and do that, and do that. That'll keep me alive. And let me flip a Planeswalker. It sure is bad. So I am not immediately dead to my Darkstar Augurs. I maybe should have chump blocked with a Darkstar Augur on the other Thought Monitor for 2 life and make it so that there's not 2 of these triggers. But this is a tough spot to get through. Like, with Chalice here, the Shadow Spear is there forever. I am hoping that on the surface, my deck doesn't look like Chalice of the Void is good against it, and that my opponent boards it out. Okay, cool. I revealed Plains and Ajani, so I didn't reveal Guide of Souls. I think the Trample gets me this time, though. Can't quite get to Cataclysm here. I don't think I'm surviving another turn in that capacity. Not from 4. So this will just shut off all of my opponent's lands minus Urza's Saga, which is insane. This sweeps Urza's Saga tokens and actual Urza tokens. Sheltered by Ghosts is fine. Bonus removal. I want to go down on 1-drops in case my opponent is still doing Chalice stuff. The question is, like, how much do I go down on 1-drops? Because, like, Fatal Push is a perfectly reasonable card to clear things that look like Emery. I think I'm going to hedge slightly against Chalice and then trim some top end since I am bringing in Clarion Conquerors. I'm not sure if Goyf or Darkstar Augur is better. They do different things. This does not have white mana, which feels like a deal breaker with 3 white cards here. This is not great. Doesn't have any of my powerful haymakers. I think I'm going to keep it and hope that it gets better. And I'm thinking about like whether or not the 1 life is relevant. Like, do I want to have extra scrub lands versus do I want more cards in graveyard? I don't think that stuff is super likely to matter. If I want to go scrubland into scrubland and then have the surveil land available later, I keep these 3, which I think I am going to do because I could draw Ocelot Pride next turn, and then I want to be able to Ocelot Pride and Swords. Oh, we do have Painter in there as well. And Metalcraft. Sure. And Emery. You've got it. I think Emery is more threatening than Painter's Servant. I'm going to Swords Emery before my opponent gets 1 more draw for a Force of Will effect. Drew another land. I will end up surveilling. Don't play Urza Saga? Nice. No. This is starting to feel like a loss. I am not out of this one yet, but it is not feeling good. Because my opponent like has access to all the thought casts and stock ups and thought monitors of the world. Shit. Okay. I get to look at 2 cards to try and disrupt this. And it preferably needs to be exile-based removal or Emery. Fucks that up. Surveil. That is not good enough in these circumstances. That's not great. So I am going to play it and then not do anything with this land to represent a swords or equivalent. But if my opponent activates the grindstone, I'm fully dead. Alright, they called. I don't have it. GG's. Alrighty. Opening hand is fine. I would like to answer that with Bowmasters if possible. Let the record show that Blood Moon is a card in my opponent's deck. I don't think I am going to fetch a basic on turn 1. I would like to Thoughtseize, and I would prefer to have basic Plains over basic Swamp. Yeah, I will take the Fable here. Opponent's hand is currently not doing a lot without that Fable. Turns out the Clarion Conqueror and friends really doing some heavy lifting in the sideboard of today's deck. And again, in respect of Blood Moon. I don't actually need to do this until my opponent's upkeep. It doesn't matter if this untaps given current board. Yes. But I do want to kill it now. Goblin Welder is the sort of card that doesn't matter until it indirectly kills you. So there's Mountain, there's a Fable. We've got Bowmasters for that. I might just Static Prison away the token, honestly, because that's something that I don't have to pay for. I'm going to go Yah, take out that token, send in for 2, and my opponent might take some damage from my Bowmasters here. Like, I know that their hand is actively not very good. Yeah, and this might be one of those times where you just kind of have to suck it up and take the damage to face. Alright, there's an Urza Saga, which we have confirmed is good against us. So I can just sacrifice that. And we know that my opponent can't cast spells right now. So we just get to mobilize and crash in for a lot of damage. Then I'll drop a cat. Got a Fatal Push for the Fable token that's coming. Or the Urza Saga token, whichever I feel is more pressing. Another land drop. Counterspell? How do I feel about Counterspell on that? And I get a Planeswalker. I don't think I like it. Because this enabled Revolt or Fatal Push to kill this. Another Voice of Victory. So this is just a 2/2 right now. Everything except the Bowmaster can safely attack. It is very possible for me to just die to Painter next turn. Alright, opponent's just gonna absorb one of the 1/1s, bring them to 2. There's Voice. I'm just gonna hold this so that there is some doubt about what is going on with the tail end of my hand. And let's see if we die to Painter. I think we are okay versus most fair stuff here. I know one of my opponent's cards is a Pyroblast. They did not loot through that. That's the Grindstone. Okay, that is just straight up a Grindstone for information. I respect it. Yeah, despite the overwhelming victory we had there, like, I was absolutely just dead to 2-mana Painter, 3-mana Grindstone to activate. Luckily, we got game 1, which means that I get to do a bunch of stuff that looks like this. I think I took my Thoughtseizes out before. And then again, with Clarion Conqueror coming in, I want to trim some number of my 3-drops in all likelihood. I don't know which one is worse here. The Darkstar Augur attacks through stalled boards and gives me card advantage, but the Goyfs are very tough for red removal to get rid of. Is there any world where I go after some of the 2-drops like Voice of Victory or the 1-drops like Fatal Push instead? I know we haven't seen it a lot today, but Voice of Victory enabling Guide of Souls to be better is very real. I think I'm going to go down some Fatal Pushes and 2 Augurs. No mana, no keep. 1 mana, relatively good hand, but many of my best draws won't be enabled. Is that fine? Like, I don't get to just play Clarion Conqueror and oops, win a game on turn 3. I think this is fine. It's absolutely risky. Alright, seems good. I just got rid of one of those. I will get a Scrubland, and just like before, we're just going to Static Prison away the Goblin Shaman token. I don't want my opponent to be able to get that mana. Many times the red Ancient Tomb decks like use Fable of the Mirror Breaker as glue. Ooh, that's untimely malfunction. Sure. All right, so I've missed on that land in 2 draws, which is rough. I am going to get slowed down here. And I don't get to cast like the Clarion Conqueror, Wrath of the Sky style cards right now. That could be very good, which is unfortunate. It has so much mana. Not red mana, though. Still have missed out on lands. So now I have a choice. I can get rid of Reflection of Kiki-Jiki before my opponent can possibly untap with it and do something gross. Or I can play Ocelot Pride and start trying to get that going. Reflection of Kiki-Jiki plus, like, Fury is disgusting. But if I get rid of this, I also am dropping a Protection versus Painter combo. This is why I was not happy with the keep. I accept. Alright. Opponent gets another friend. And Lotus Petal. Reflection of Kiki-Jiki is crashing in there. I think I am. Now that my opponent has searched and it was not Painter, I think it wasn't Grindstone, I think I am comfortable doing that. I'll take 3 from this, and then hopefully Ocelot Pride Guide of Souls gets going, and everything's fine. I think my opponent is just going to play another Fable, based on, like, getting the Lotus Petal. Ooh-wee. Alright, I mean, that's the dream, right? Is it Ocelot Pride? I think it's Ocelot Pride over other Guide of Souls. So this just gives me my 3rd energy immediately. I'm okay spending that energy. My opponent's life total is surprisingly low because they are on a double Ancient Tomb draw. And these construct tokens are going to be 1 bigger than they actually look like because of the treasure token that's coming. I think I just take 8. I could actually get rid of this cat. Yeah, that's fine, because I'm probably about to gain an absurd amount of life. Unless I just eat a Fury. Grindstone? Fuck. That's Painter. Plus the 3 mana to activate it. Just confirming, I don't have anything. Yeah, no, triple Ancient Tomb. I think this one is a very easy victory with 1 land drop in the top 3 or so cards. So on the play, do I want to change anything? Like the Augur becomes slightly better on the play. I could also see wanting more 1-drops when I'm on the play, because turn 3, it's more valuable to be able to 2-drop plus 1-drop. Sure. And again, I'm very unsure about like Goyf versus Augur versus like Voice of Victory. This has a Wrath of the Skies. I will accordingly keep. Might be playing my own creature into a Wrath of the Skies that I end up doing for more than 0. Ooh. So I could just pick out 2 mana sources with a Wrath of the Skies here. Is that fine? Is Sinkhole Plus fine? Sinkhole Plus might be fine. Then I just follow up with Voice of Victory into Voice of Victory with Guide of Souls already online. Yeah, I'm in. I'm going to get a basic here. Again, we haven't seen a Blood Moon, but it is so free to respect it. All right, 2 permanents down. And we have Wasteland for Urza's Saga. Ooh, not a bad pickup. That's weird. If this gets lightning bolted, this is terrible. Otherwise, that's a totally reasonable use of my mana. I'm going to keep it because of Wasteland specifically. Wasteland means there's a decent number of timelines where I have 3 mana instead of 4 mana next turn. Damn voice. Like, when Urza's Saga comes down, I want to be able to Wasteland it and spend 3 mana. That's a very strong argument to keep Ocelot Pride on top of Library there. Ancient Tomb. Goblin Engineer, which can get haste, but opponent won't have red for the activation. Get 2/2 with boots. Alright, Ensnaring Bridge is not surprising. So, Wasteland, Ancient Tomb. I guess I should actually think. I'm always doing Ocelot Pride. So that's 1, 2 energy, 2 more, so I have 4 energy. The difference between 4 and 5 energy doesn't matter. I guess I will Voice of Victory here. Let's just yield to all of those. My 1/3 can attack in safely, and then I will give Guide of Souls flying. So yes, here. All right, my opponent blocks a token, and then we're going to move to end step. I will make a friend. I don't have the city's blessing quite yet. Actually, was that a reason to play a Johnny? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, that was a reason to play a Johnny. A new Goblin Engineer or Painter. Urza Saga represents Grindstone. Pithing Needle. Wasteland? Wasteland. Sheltered by Ghosts. My opponent dead. If I remove this blocker. 4 in the air. 1 is blocked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Not dead. Wait, I didn't count that right, did I? So 4 in the air. It is my opponent at 7. They have 1 blocker. They block this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. 7 plus 4. Dead. Okay. I will remove... Yeah, okay. Almost gave my opponent an extra turn by not counting correctly. But we got it. So that is a 3-1 so far. We have been coming out on top, but the wins are not 2-0s. We are needing all of the games, and our sideboard cards are doing a lot of work here. We are a little land light in opening hands today. Maybe we should go up to a 21st land in the deck. This is pretty hot, though. So turn 1, Guide of Souls. Turn 2, one of my cards. Turn 3, in theory, 1-drop, 2-drop, if I don't get wastelanded and I draw another land. I think I am willing to throw back a land. We've got a Chrome Mox Gamer. So Moon Stompy. Blood Moon is fine. I don't have any black cards in my hand, and I just start off with basic... Alright, well, there's a black card, but I start off with basic planes. And this notably sets my opponent back a mana. Their Ancient Tomb isn't producing 2 anymore. So it's not like their Blood Moon did literally nothing. Alternate art on that. Sure. Chalice of the Void. You've got it. My opponent's not going to be able to cast that for 1, though. They can cast it for 0 with the intention to throw it with a Fable of the Mirrorbreaker later on. So I can't double Guide of Souls here. It's going to be a 4 on my opponent's turn. I think a Johnny is potentially the most annoying here. This doesn't trample. I think I just play this and make it awkward for my opponent to attack into it. Yeah, so it comes in, triggers, Magus of the Moon is whatever. I will just chump it and transform my Planeswalker. Magus of the Moon is fine. So, Guide of Souls? And this is the first turn where the Blood Moon really has a real impact on the game. Just yield all this. Let's make a cat. I think we are going to go ahead and go to punchies and make this bigger. And now I don't super care about this creature. We'll see whether my opponent just attacks with this or whether they send the Magus of the Moon in. Fable revealed. Both of those are going at my Planeswalker. I think I just let the Planeswalker take a hit for 2. Like it being at 1 versus 3 loyalty doesn't make any difference to me. And I don't need to kill that Magus. There's Fable. And I think I'm just going to kill my opponent while they are farting around trying to kill my Planeswalker. This is the next Guide of Souls. 2 energy. Cat. 2 energy. Send it. Send it. I'm going to say yes. Counters on the one that does not yet have flying. And then yes. Counters on one of them. It doesn't matter which one. This is just 8 damage. My opponent is dead in the air next turn. At 6. Now, the One Ring is the card here that my opponent probably needs to find. That fogs them for a little while. Broadside can kill this Guide of Souls. Or no, yeah, they can kill this Guide of Souls. They need to kill 2 of them. So this trigger gets Shatter Skull Smashing. This is at face. This is at face. That with Menace is at my Planeswalker. Seems like I just let all that go through. My opponent is very close to dead. Now I am expecting Broadside, throw a 3-drop, deal 5 to this. They could Shatter Skull Smashing for 1 to kill a cat token. And then just hope I don't have a creature, which I do. Alright, there's land drop. Shatter Skull Smashing used as a land. There is a Trinisphere. My opponent is... No, they still have a Broadside activation. I guess I could throw Trinisphere at this Guide of Souls. Then they're dead to me playing any creature. And yeah, okay. So we're going to be looking at the same subset of cards that I've been boarding in for most of my rounds here. First thing I'm doing is Thoughtseize is out, and then we have to think about what is the weak link from there. Voice of Victory is not incredible. It doesn't line up in combat super well versus a lot of my opponent's stuff. This is a little expensive in terms of my curve for a 20 land deck if I am going up this many 3-drops. Wrath of the Skies is not amazing. It's a way to clear out artifact mana and like Fable of the Mirrorbreaker tokens. But it's certainly not insane, and if I do get Blood Moon, it's not the best. My opponent's deck could have Urza Saga. It's a thing you can do now. Generally speaking, I have not been impressed by Blood Moon plus Urza Saga. It's just clunky. I might already just have enough removal, assuming I don't eat Chalice of the Void. This is an answer to Chalice of the Void, though, so, you know. Clarion Conqueror is very much in respect of the One Ring in... Wait, can I just not count? Was that just 60? It was just 60. So I guess I am thinking about, do I want 2 Darkstar Augurs or like 2 Voice of Victories? Again, curve is high here. I'm gonna try this. Yeah, this is totally fine. So this has turn 1 planes into Guide of Souls. Opponent has turn 1 Fable. How do I feel about just swordsing that? Not bad, actually. I don't feel bad about that. I'm not going to do it yet. I'll let my opponent do their looting. And then pre-combat, I'm very, very, very likely to swords this. Ooh, opponent junks a 1 ring and goes to combat. I'll take this out. They discarded a land, so they at least have another land for sure. Trinisphere. You've got it. Am I willing to wasteland my opponent under Trinisphere? That's tough. Like, taking out the soul land is very, very, very good. I am going to take that degree of risk. It's like I am trying to continue to hit my opponent on the same axis. If they just drop a soul land this turn, it's obviously terrible for me. But otherwise, hopefully I outvalue them. And if the Reflection of Kiki-Jiki... Like, if my opponent doesn't play more creatures, I don't really care if they just attack me for 2 with this. Alright, I have missed my land drop. And this is the downside of taking the line that I took. But again, I am denying my opponent that Ancient Tomb mana. Yikes. That will probably bury me. Missed land drop is tough. Alright. So, this is the turn where I imagine... Oh, that seems like wrong sequencing. Certainly draw with the 1 ring first before committing your mana to this. There are way better plays than this. And I shocked this in with Trinisphere in play. I don't think those mistakes are going to matter, but I think they are mistakes. City of Traders. Yep. Okay, I think I am comfortable conceding from here. I don't regret the line that I took. I think if that 1 ring comes down sooner, I end up in a worse position. I know my opponent is still playing Trinispheres. I might want to just play a couple more cards that can come down earlier, even if they aren't the best cards. Well, that is a very pointed hand. Like, if you have the 1 ring, this is insane. And if you don't, this is quite bad. I think I just mulligan this one. It's also very bad versus a Blood Moon effect. This is fine. This card will probably pretty close to solo the match. There is some awkwardness of whether or not I play around turn 1 Blood Moon. I think I don't. I could pitch Sheltered by Ghosts and do it. It's just awkward because if I don't get Blood Mooned, I can't actually play this on turn 3. I would be trying to use this to do an untapped land. I could have put this back in the deck. No, I really do want both basics. Yeah, this is surprisingly awkward. I think I'm keeping and pitching Sheltered by Ghosts. And hopefully I don't eat Moon immediately. Almost whatever I see is going directly into Graveyard for the purposes of growing this. And with this hand, as soon as I have the black mana, I'm actually in pretty darn good shape in regards to Blood Moon. The 1 ring? It is the 1 ring. I will obviously respond. I'm going to go ahead and go for the basic here. I'll ping face with this one, and then the 1 ring comes in and gives my opponent protection. Oh, disgusting. Alright, so those draws were not taxed. However, that's not bad. I think even though it's not the most mana efficient, I am just doing it again. Now my opponent does not have protection from everything. When they put that draw on the stack, I'll do this. So that's 13, draw 2, bring you to 11. A new Fury could still clear these out, which I would be sad about. Ancient Tomb as a land here, also kind of a big deal. Sure. That means that my opponent can keep their City of Traders around, potentially. Oh no, they're going to sacrifice it and take damage. Fiery Confluence, doming creatures. So there's no instant in the yard yet. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, just have it get countered, and throw this Goyf up. Wrath of the Skies gets 2 cards. I think it is just better to play this out, though. Like, at 4/5 stats, it is tough to answer. And I can potentially use the Wrath of the Skies for a higher amount in a minute. Broadside. Broadside's good. Broadside can throw the ring at Goyf and kill it. Yep. So, we're going to bank some stuff for a rainy day here, I think. I basically never need black except Darkstar Augur. I'm going to go ahead and get another basic plains. I already have black for that. We're going to go ahead and Wrath of the Skies for 0 kills these. Store the 1 energy. And then Fatal Push Broadside. My opponent is at 4 with 2 Ancient Tombs. They have 5 cards in hand to my 0. And we'll just see how much of that is relevant mana. Yeah. I'm going to go on the token so I can just sacrifice this and not have to pay for this. I think it is still very possible for me to lose here. That was a good loot. Ancient Tomb in particular is very bad. Another Fable. Sure. I mean, I guess by the same logic, I'm going to do this. I am a little worried about that card. This is the point of the game where my Darkstar Augurs are very important. Also, just a flyer. Straight up anything that can fly over these tokens is good. That's Reflection plus Barrowgoyf. I will die to that next turn. Yep. So in case you don't know how this works, Barrowgoyf enters and deals damage equal to its power. And when you copy it, you get a Barrowgoyf trigger from it entering, and the Barrowgoyf sees the Barrowgoyf copy. So that is just 12 damage to my face directly, ignoring the combat step. GG's. That means we put up a 3-2 finish today. Well, that was a legitimately fun Legacy League. And why is that? Well, there was no Reanimate, there was no Entomb, there was no Oops all spells. We just played against a bunch of, good, fair decks. I will say, given the selection of decks that we played against today, I think the Clarion Conquerors and Wrath of the Skies overperformed relative to how they might normally perform in the average league with more blue opponents. Rick, I think your overall shell and numbers were about right here. Urza Saga, again, does feel like a problem. I think the 2 Wastelands is about the sweet spot for having enough main deck respect for it that you can hope that these things help the post-sideboard games. Darkstar Augur was fine. I think this is going to be better in the blue matchups than it is in these non-blue matchups. When I was just repeatedly bringing in another 3-drop, there was a lot of competition at this mana value. I mulliganed a fair amount of non-land and 1-land hands today. I could definitely see going up to the 21st land in this deck. I would need a lot more reps to tell. Maybe you play 3 Darkstar Augur and a 21st land, and that just smooths out the openers a little bit. Otherwise, I don't know that I would make any major changes to the deck. I think I would take a good hard look at Deafening Silence. Again, that card has not really been winning me games a lot of the times when I bring it in. Many of the combo decks are just kind of resilient and can maybe not win immediately, but can find a way to beat that over time. But yeah, numbers feel about right. Good work. Would be happy to play more things like this. And with that, I think I'm going to call it a day here, folks. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, consider leaving me a like or a comment. I had a couple of modern videos last week, and they definitely tanked me in the algorithm, so let's get those numbers back up. All right, anyway, see ya.